Hey everybody, December 13th, 2021. Welcome back to another edition of the Super Stream. Thanks to everybody who's jumping in early here, live. Today we have a lot to unpack, as usual. This past weekend there was a devastating tornado outbreak in the United States Midwest. A devastating storm that saw the most destruction in Mayfield, Kentucky. And in fact, they're saying that at least 64 are dead in Kentucky at the moment, in addition to at least 12 in other states. So we're going to be talking about this. And my last video on this channel was regarding the death of an NFL wide receiver named Demaryius Thomas. Now, this tornado outbreak, which again was the worst in Mayfield, Kentucky, the name Mayfield connects us to an NFL quarterback, Baker Mayfield. Now, I've actually done work on this quarterback in the past, explaining how he's been stamped with major eclipse numbers. And it never occurred to me until this tornado outbreak that the city of Mayfield, Kentucky, is almost directly in the intersection of the two great American total solar eclipses. So we're going to talk about how these tornadoes are directly connected to this eclipse code that I talk about in almost every video. And then we'll also look at how the NFL attributed the death of Demaryius Thomas through the numbers in these games this past weekend. In fact, Baker Mayfield's game against the Ravens played a huge part in this numeric riddle that played out throughout the league yesterday. But what we'll focus on is how two teams scored 33 points. And remember, Demaryius Thomas was 33 years old. So we'll look at how the Seahawks and the Buccaneers games were occulted tributes to Demaryius Thomas. We'll also look at a few other things, in addition to this NFL coding from this past weekend. The tornadoes in Kentucky occurred less than a week after the Kentucky Derby winner mysteriously died at Santa Anita Racetrack, where many racehorses have died over the past couple of years. In this post, we'll also tap into some more numerology connecting the death of Medina spirit to other events, also in the NFL. Another thing I want to touch on is the death of keyboardist Billy Preston. Of course, just a couple weeks ago, Disney Plus came out with a Beatles documentary called Get Back, and it inspired me to look a little deeper into some of the numerology with the band, and I found some pretty wild alignments with the death of Billy Preston, who died on a very curious date of 6606. So we'll get to that in a little bit. Also going to touch on a couple other stories. Speaking of the Eclipse Code, a big mass shooting in 2017 at a grocery store that most people never actually heard about. So we'll talk about this. I guess there was a documentary released about this not too long ago as well. Pat McAfee's recent deal with FanDuel, we can touch on that. We'll take a glance at the Jussie Smollett hoax story. But let's get to this story about the tornado outbreak and how this manifested by the numbers. So again, while the outbreak occurred throughout several states, most of the devastation was in Mayfield, Kentucky, and the carnage was focused at a candle factory. Now, of course, the fact that this was at a candle factory is interesting in connection to the eclipse code. Of course, an eclipse is when the moon blocks out the sun. And in this story, the ceiling collapsed on a candle factory. Think about how a candle generates light with fire, very similar to the sun. Using the standard reverse alphabetic order, which is, of course... Did I have the opening on this whole time? Anyway, so in the reverse alphabetic order, which is just Z is 1, A is 26, the phrase candle factory has gematria of 224. Now, 224 is a number that is connected to both of these eclipses. And again, these are the two twin total solar eclipses creating a neat little X over the United States. Now, if you measure from the first eclipse back in 2017 to the date of these tornadoes, you'll notice it was 224 weeks after the first eclipse. The second eclipse is in the year 2024. And again, in the reverse order, candle factory equals 224. 224 is a number connected to the Society of Jesus, whose emblem is essentially a solar eclipse with the rays of the sun visible around what looks like, to me, a moon eclipsing the sun. Again, you can only see the corona of the sun or its atmosphere during a total eclipse. This tornado also occurred 112 days after the anniversary of that eclipse. And think about the number 112 and how it connects to the date of these tornadoes. 11/12, the 11th of December, which is when most of these storms touched down. And the number 112 is connected to 224, right? Because the first multiple of 112 is 224, as shown here. Now, this connects us to the quarterback in the NFL named Mayfield. The name Baker Mayfield sums to 112 in the standard alphabetic order, where A is 1, B is 2, all the way through Z is 26. In fact, his middle name is Reagan, so his full name also has 112 Gematria. This candle factory belonged to a company called Mayfield Consumer Products. And, well, I guess there's no wiki page for it. Mayfield Consumer Products is located at 112 Industrial Drive. See the address there? 112. Again, a lot like the date, the 11th of December, when this occurred. The fact that Baker Mayfield's middle name is Reagan is something I explored in my last post about Baker Mayfield from 2019. This is because Ronald Reagan died at the age of exactly 1,120 months old with the end date. From 2/6/1911 to 6/5/2004 is a span of exactly 1,120 months. And the reason Reagan is connected to the NFL is because of his middle name. Notice the middle name Wilson. Wilson is the name that's actually printed on an NFL football. So what did Baker Mayfield do this weekend after the tornadoes? He led his team to a 24-22 victory over the Baltimore Ravens. Why is the number 24-22 significant? Well, if you measure the number of days between this first American eclipse to the second one, it comes out to exactly 2,422 days. Now, 2422 is the first multiple of the number 1211. And again, look at the date these tornadoes occurred. December 11th, written 12/11. Now, the number 1211 is significant for another big reason here. In the year 2020, we had a total solar eclipse that passed over Argentina. Now, this total solar eclipse was the exact halfway point between the two twin eclipses in the United States. And I call this the Jesuit eclipse because it was over Argentina, which is home to Pope Francis, the first Jesuit pope. For a number of other reasons, too. Now, if you measure from this first eclipse to this Jesuit eclipse over South America, you get exactly 1,211 days. And then you go 1,211 days from this eclipse to the second Great American one, and you get 1,211 days again. This eclipse in 2020 on the right, this ended lunation 12/11. So again, that eclipse was on December 14th to end lunation 1211. And when I talk about lunations, this all started in the year 1923 when scientists and astronomers decided, hey, let's begin counting moons. And as far as why they started back then, well, there's a pretty big agenda playing out right now, and this is all part of it. Could it be manufactured storms here? I would say it's pretty likely. I don't know exactly how that works, but when the president comes on TV and blames climate change for tornadoes, you know something's up. President Puppet, as we like to call him. So now you see why this all occurred on the date 12/11, because this is the number that's heavily significant to this eclipse code. And the NFL proved it with this 24-22 game. Another reason this is so significant in 2020 is because this eclipse began lunation 12/12, and it was in the year 2020. And in Gematria, total solar eclipse equals 202 and 12/12. This date, by the way, is the first date that the FDA approved the first COVID vaccine. Because, they've been planning for this date for many, many years. So let's look a little bit closer at the Gematria of Candle Factory. I want to point out how in the two primary large number methods, which are based in ancient Hebrew and Greek isopsephy, notice how Candle Factory has matching 713 Gematria with the phrase total eclipse. On top of that, the name of the company, Mayfield Consumer Products, sums to 156 and 2270. And these are numbers that I commonly say are connected to the eclipse code through Hebrew. Remember, an eclipse always occurs 1, 5, or 6 lunar phases after the last one. And in the Hebrew ordinal, United States of America equals 227 as well. Glancing back at Sumerian Gematria, the word tornadoes sums to 666. And these tornadoes struck Mayfield, Kentucky, which equals 666. And of course, 666 is a major eclipse number having to do with the tilt of the Earth, also connected to the speed of the Earth, which is actually misprinted here. It's 66,616. Furthermore, tornado equals 33 and 39, which is the same as eclipse. We had a candle factory destroyed. Candle equals 33. And this was all connected again to Baker Mayfield. And Baker Mayfield plays in the city of Cleveland, which equals 33. And Cleveland is the largest city that's in the path of the 2024 total solar eclipse, as you see there. Now, what makes this even more interesting is that Baker Mayfield wears the number 6. And if you go from the first Great American Eclipse and fast forward 6 years, 6 months, 6 weeks, and 6 days, well, look at that. You get to the exact date of the second eclipse, 4/8/2024. So there's all Baker Mayfield sporting his special number 6, which is completely connected to the Earth, the geometry of the moon and the sun, etc. Now, remember when Baker Mayfield was drafted, he recreated this image that Brett Favre had from 1991. And they went to great lengths to recreate this image. Even this guy on the end of the bed here, wearing the same clothes. Everyone else in their NFL draft day clothes. And you're like, wow, why would they go this far to compare Baker Mayfield to Brett Favre? I mean, they didn't go to the same college or anything. Well, if you measure between Favre's and Mayfield's birthdays, you get this 1,331 weeks. And of course, this is really the ultimate eclipse number. 1331, all connecting to this all-land total solar eclipse in the year 1331. I'll link this below for anyone who wants more info. Baker was drafted by the Cleveland Browns, which equals 1330. The name Brett Lorenzo Favre, 1332, which are both one off of 1331. And there's more numbers here. This talks about how it's all connected to Ronald Reagan as well. So feel free to check that out. So we got a pretty pair of riddles connected to the death of Demaryius Thomas this past weekend. And we'll start in Seattle with running back Rashad Penny. So again, we looked at candle summing to 33, like the word tornado 33. The word eclipse equals 33. And recall, we just had the death at the age of 33 of former star NFL wide receiver, four-time Pro Bowler, Demaryius Thomas. Remember, Demaryius died at the age of 33 the same day that rapper Slim 400 was killed at age 33. I talked about that in my last video, of course. So what happened with Rashad Penny? Well, the Seahawks scored 33 points in their game yesterday. They had a nice 33-13 win over the Texans. And of course, 13 is the other major ritualistic number that we commonly talk about. So when I was watching highlights yesterday, I saw they scored 33, and then they mentioned that the running back who scored that last touchdown had 137 yards. And instantly, my ears lit up because the number 137 is the 33rd prime number. So I said there's probably more to this. Of course there is. The man who ran for all these yards was Rashad Penny. And check out how the name Rashad sums to 137 in reverse. Penny was born on February 2nd, which is the 33rd day of the year. His touchdown gave Seattle their 33rd points. He ran the ball 16 times in the game. Of course, 16, the first number to have 33 Gematria. His full name, Rashad Armain Penny, sums to 895, which is the same value as 33. Remember, the whole ritual with Demaryius Thomas was connected to Jesus. The name Demaryius even has the name Mary inside of it. The last name Penny has near perfect overlap with Jesus, 74, 61, and 29. And to really stamp this home, as soon as I finished this post on Rashad Penny, Rashad's brother, Elijah Penny, scored a touchdown for the New York Giants. And that happened to be his first ever receiving touchdown in the NFL. So what are the odds of that happening immediately after his brother has this big breakout game? Now, the name Elijah is a play on a biblical name. And check out how Elijah Penny equals 1189. Well, how many chapters are in the Bible? That would be 1189 chapters. But there's more 33 connections to pull out of this. When you write out 33 as we did before, you also get Gematria of 156. The Seahawks' opponent in this game was the Houston Texans. Houston Texans equals 156 in reverse. And they play in Houston, Texas, which is 156 abbreviated. Now, 156 is one of the numbers that connects 33 to 666. 33 even has Gematria of 66 and 60. 666 is connected to mathematics of the circle. And think about how this all connects to the eclipse code, right? The moon and the sun, the two largest circles in the sky, intersecting by this 666 code. Now follow along here, but the mathematics of the circle are resolved with pi. Now pi is made up of the 16th and 9th letters, like 169. Seattle Seahawks, 169. That's Penny's team. But furthermore, pi has an ordinal value of 25. And Rashad Penny was 25 years and 314 days old on the date of this game. Of course, the first three digits of pi are 314. And just think about the name Penny, right? If you look at a penny, it's a circle. Now, the 314th prime number is 2083. See this? When you write out 666, it equals 2083. Now, this 283 is the same gematria as the moon. In English gematria, the moon equals 423, and that's exactly how many weeks younger than Demaryius Thomas Rashad Penny is. And of course, this also goes back to Jesus' crucifixion, as it's believed that he was crucified on the date of a lunar eclipse. So I thought that was strange enough. However, we then got a second game where a team scored 33 points. So to cap off the afternoon games yesterday, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers won in overtime over the Buffalo Bills. And look at the name of the guy who scored that 33rd point. Brashad Perryman. Brashad Perryman. Sounds a lot like Rashad Penny, doesn't it? This brings us to the governor of Kentucky, whose name is Andy Bashir. So, to me, this is a pretty clear harmonic connection. Bashir, Rashad, Brashad, Perryman, Penny. Clearly, there's some threading going on here. And to make this even weirder is that this was actually Perryman's first target of the entire game. And look at what number Perryman wears. He also wears number 16. Remember, Rashad Penny had 16 carries to get his 137 yards, and 16 is 33. Tampa Bay is another city with 156 gematria, this time using capital letters and the alphabetic order. Of course, 33, the big crucifixion number, crucifixion of Jesus Christ and Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, summing to 33, crucified at 33, in 33 AD. Tampa Bay also equals 137, which is, remember, the 33rd prime number. But check out the name Brashad Perryman. In the alphabetic order, it sums to 151, which is the value of Jesus Christ. And Perryman was born 15 weeks and 1 day before Demaryius Thomas's birthday. Demaryius Thomas wore number 88, just like his reverse gematria. Brashad Perryman also 88 with the S exception. Now, in crucifixion riddles, a huge number is 93. God's Son equals 93. Died on the crucifix, 93. It was Jesus of Nazareth, 93. Christianity equals 930, the number of years that the first man in the Bible lived to. Jesus' crucifixion even on the 93rd day of the year between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. Well, Brashad Perryman, who was born in 93, was 93 days after his birthday on this game. Also notice his birthday is September 10th, which is just 1 day before September 11th, the date that many biblical scholars believe is Jesus' true birthday, 9/11. Yesterday's games in the NFL had numerology of 65. And remember, Demaryius Thomas equals 65, and he died 65 days before Super Bowl 56, so it's appropriate for these tributes to occur on that date. Also, a couple more alignments with the 29 and the 19, which I laid out in the post. But Demaryius Thomas spent most of his career playing for the Denver Broncos, and the Denver Broncos rather appropriately scored 38 points in their tribute game. And 38 is the big number of death. Death equals 38, so does killing. The word murder also has gematria of 38. And you kind of have to appreciate, look at the Lions' record after this game. 1-11-1. Just recently I broke down how the number 1 is virtually identical to the Hebrew letter Vav. Vav, which is the 6th letter in the Hebrew alphabet, looks a lot like 1. So that's kind of a shorthanded way of coding 666 into this again. Speaking of 666, look at the gematria of Santa Anita Racetrack. Now, I guess I didn't put it in this post. I probably put it in this one here. Santa Anita Racetrack has gematria of 666. And just before these big tornadoes in Kentucky, the winner of the Kentucky Derby, Medina Spirit, died. Suddenly collapsed at the racetrack after a workout due to what is being called a cardiac event, which of course leads people to wonder, was the horse vaccinated against COVID? Since cardiac events seem to be the new trend among individuals who accepted the jab. So, what's so special about 666 and Medina Spirit? Well, I made this second post explaining how December 6th this year fell exactly 666 months after the date 6666. And I've talked about this date in the past because it was when Elizabeth Trump died. And notice how Elizabeth Trump sums to 666. This was Donald Trump's grandmother. And of course, this cipher, Satanic Gematria, built around the number 666. So on this date, again, at Santa Anita Racetrack, which is 666 in Latin or Jewish, we get the death of a racehorse at the track. Now, this is kind of similar to another big 666 riddle I uncovered earlier this year. You may recall in Arkansas, someone hung in a banner on this Jesus statue that said, "God bless abortions," which is so weird. But this was 666 months after the statue was first built in the year 66. So just another example of how this is a common thread throughout various news stories. And that Jesus statue is even 66 feet tall, completed in 66. Now, what someone pointed out to me that I thought was pretty interesting is that if you go backwards 6,660 days from the death of Medina Spirit, you get the date September 12th, 2003. And what happened on September 12th, 2003? We had the death of a major cowboy, Johnny Cash. Look at this. Exactly 6,660 days before Medina Spirit. There was another connection with a different actor, which I may have mentioned in this post. Robert Conrad, yes. Check this out. So this guy played in the television series The Wild Wild West, where he played a secret agent. So another Western character. And he died on February 8th, 2020, which was 667 days before Medina Spirit died. I thought that was curious enough to include. But let's look back more at the story of Medina Spirit, because there's a lot more interesting numbers here that connect to the NFL in particular. For starters, they said it was a cardiac event that killed this horse, and notice how cardiac event equals 219 in the reverse alphabetic order. Medina Spirit died exactly 219 days after winning the Kentucky Derby. The Kentucky Derby this past year was on May 1st, or 5-1. Cardiac event equals 51 and 105 in ordinal. The 51st prime number is 233, and 233 is the Gematria of horse. 233 is also a Fibonacci number. That would be the 13th Fibonacci number. Now, when you write out 13, you get this double Gematria of 45, right? And Medina Spirit was born on April 5th, which is written 4/5. Medina Spirit was owned by famous racehorse mogul Bob Baffert, who was born on the 13th day of the year. Medina Spirit died during week 13 of the NFL season. And think about what horses do. They gallop, right? And classically, they're ridden by cowboys. Figures like maybe Johnny Cash or Mr. Conrad that we just glanced at. Well, last month, Cowboys wide receiver Michael Gallup, who wears number 13, made his return off of injured reserve. And he was activated on the 13th of November, which was 13 weeks before the Super Bowl. And when Gallup returned to the team, he helped his coach, Mike McCarthy, MM, right? M is 13. McCarthy earned his 13th win with the Cowboys. And the game fell 1 year and 313 days after McCarthy was hired. 13-13. I unpacked this riddle a couple weeks ago. I did a super stream with the NFL logo on it, and I broke the entire 13 riddle down with Sam Huff. But this is all connected to Dallas because Dallas equals 13, and their logo is a star, which equals 13. Notice how Dallas equals 41 as well, and 41 is the 13th prime number, right? The Cowboys play their home games in Irving, Texas, which equals 1341. Now, when Michael Gallup, number 13 for the Cowboys, returned from IR, he was exactly 1,341 weeks old. Medina Spirit, the racehorse, was exactly 1,341 days old when he died. And the reason I really think this is a big Super Bowl riddle this year is because Medina Spirit was the winner of the 147th Kentucky Derby. 147 is the numerology of Super Bowl in the Jewish or Latin cipher. And when you look at how old Medina Spirit would be on the date of the Super Bowl, you get the date of the Super Bowl, 213, right there, 213. Kentucky Derby winner Medina Spirit sums to 2770. Now, maybe this is arbitrary phrasing, but he died 277 days after Michael Gallup's birthday. That's the 59th prime number, and the horse died on a date with 59 numerology, like the word kill, 59. The term ritual sacrifice equals 616 in this cipher, and when Medina Spirit won the Kentucky Derby, Michael Gallup was 9,190 days old, which is ritual sacrifice upside down. I like how CNN updated their news story at 1:37 p.m. This is intentional because Medina Spirit sums to 137, just like its owner, Bob A. Baffert. Right there, Bob A. Baffert, 137. Oh, I'm sorry, Robert A. Baffert. I knew that was wrong. Robert A. Baffert, 137. And yeah, again, 137, the 33rd prime number. Medina Spirit was born 33 days after Michael Gallup's birthday. Cowboys equals 33. You know, if you had told me that I'd be telling you that the death of a racehorse would be connected to the Super Bowl. If you told me that 10 years ago, I'd think you're crazy, but what a bizarre world we live in. And it's silly to think that this horse just died naturally. I'm sure something else is behind this. But all I can show you is the numbers. Moving on out of the world of sports, a few days ago I did a post on the man who is called the fifth Beatle by many music fans, keyboardist Billy Preston, whose vibe and energy completely changed the studio during the filming of the Beatles Get Back documentary. And just great stuff in that film, by the way. You know, I've always been a Beatles fan, so watching that 8 hours was a real treat. And seeing how Preston's playing ability changed the band as they were working on their project was pretty cool. So I took it upon myself to glance at the numerology of Billy Preston to see if anything really stood out and if it was maybe connected to this whole Beatles record that he was on. Because while many people think that producer George Martin or maybe manager Brian Epstein was the fifth Beatle, Billy Preston was the only artist to ever be credited on a Beatles track other than the four Beatles themselves. The track that Preston received his credit on was Get Back, which is, of course, the title of this year's new documentary. And right off the bat, numbers started popping up in an incredibly patterned fashion here. So I first wrote out Get Back, the name of the song, and I saw this 22 in reduction, which immediately stood out. Because on the date that the single Get Back was released, April 11th, 1969, Billy Preston was a span of exactly 22 years and 222 days old. And now if you measure from the release of the single Get Back to the release of the documentary called Get Back, you get 19,222 days. And remember, next month, we start the year 2022, which should be an interesting one. The date April 11th is the 101st day on the Gregorian calendar. Preston's full name was William Everett Preston, which sums to 101 in that same reduction method. The Beatles Get Back, which is the official name of this new documentary, sums to 56 in reduction gematria. And Preston died 56 days after the anniversary of the release of the song Get Back. But the real interesting part about this soul musician's death was that it was on 6606. So when Billy Preston came aboard with the Beatles, the band had just begun recording in their new studios owned by Apple Records, which was their company. Apple Records has gematria of 60 and 66, connecting it to that 666 code. And the Beatles have curiously coded themselves with 666 often. Think about how Paul McCartney, after leaving the band, went on to form the band Wings. And Wings equals 666 straight up in gematria. In fact, Paul McCartney and Wings has a lot of 666 in it. You have the 234. Of course, if you add this to 432, you get 666. There's more to this. I'm not going to get into it. Billy Preston was known for being a soul musician, and in reverse Sumerian gematria, just the reverse alphabetic order times 6, soul music equals 666. Furthermore, soul musician sums to 156, which matches 666 and triple sixes. You also get the 66, which is like the date he died. Earlier, we pointed out how 38 was a big number of death. Preston's death fell on a date with 38 numerology, just like John Lennon, assassinated in 1980 on a date with a life lesson number of 38. Billy Preston died 38 years and 66 days after the founding of Apple Corps, which was the parent company of Apple Records. In the reduction method, the name Billy Preston equals 59. And as I just pointed out, the 59th prime number is 277. When Billy Preston died, he was 59 years and 277 days old. Now, the number 59 has been stamped on black people throughout history. The term Negro is 59, so is slave. Preston was a musician. Think about blues equals 59. In addition to Apple Records, Billy Preston also released records on Motown, or under the Motown label, and Motown Records was founded in 59. Rasta, another black form of music, historically anyway, 59. Billy Preston's death on June 6th was the 157th day of the year. The name Billy Preston, 157 in reverse. Looking once more at Billy Preston's full name caps this riddle off. So notice how it sums to 124 in reverse. Preston died 12 weeks and 4 days before his 60th birthday. And the 60th prime number is 281, which is Preston's full ordinal gematria. He also died 88 days before his birthday. That happens to be the value of pianist. I guess more people call him a keyboardist, but he certainly was great at both of those instruments. All right, so shout out to chat. I haven't really chimed in and checked it out yet, but had a lot to get through today. Chigozi with a good point about the penny. I pointed out how the penny was a circle, like pi, and pi equals 16. And on the penny is the 16th president. So that's pretty cool. And remember, 16 is 33. All right, I wanted to look at a couple more news stories. One involving sportscaster Pat McAfee, who used to be a punter for the Indianapolis Colts. And I find it difficult not to really like Pat McAfee. Seems like a good guy. I don't know. He didn't really rise to the top through the normal channels. He took on his own podcast and grew it on his own. And now it's been picked up by FanDuel. So Pat McAfee announced this big, massive deal with FanDuel, which is a huge component of sports betting in the United States. And companies like DraftKings, FanDuel, I expect them to be involved in a lot of numeric rituals going forward, now that sports gambling is really gaining traction in the United States and becoming legalized in most parts. So I don't really think Pat McAfee had anything to do with the numerology of this story. It's likely that the companies that he's involved with are kind of playing around with him a little bit, because Pat McAfee, his name is incredibly connected to this 666 code. Patrick McAfee is 666, so is Patrick. The name Pat McAfee and Patrick McAfee matches 666, 603 score and 6. McAfee equals beast. He was born in 87, 666 number of the beast. And then his show, Pat McAfee Show, equals 999. So this is kind of an interesting take, because I'm a firm believer that if you work hard in this world and you're honest and you're genuine to the people around you, that you will find your own success in a way that soothes your soul, so to speak. And Pat McAfee, definitely a hardworking dude, and now he's found a lot of success. So is there an organic element to this code here? Because I believe that 666 is actually a number connected to creation and manifestation. The occult understands this, which is why they try to make that number seem evil, when in reality, it just means it's a certain wavelength with the universe. It's a bit of an abstract thought. But let's explore how this was all coded with 666. We start with the date 12/9 when this announcement was made, December 9th. The name McAfee equals 129. And I should point out that this isn't my first post on Pat McAfee, because back in June, we had the death of software mogul John McAfee. And John McAfee's full name syncs up with Pat McAfee's very well. And Pat McAfee had just been hired as a WWE announcer, so this was all connected. McAfee's deal with FanDuel was worth $120 million. And McAfee's full name in Gematria, Patrick Justin McAfee, equals 120. This announcement was even made on December 9th, which equals 120. The $120 million deal. McAfee's full name has Gematria of 204 and 78. And this announcement fell 20 weeks and 4 days before his next birthday and 7 months, 8 days after his last. The Pat McAfee Show, also 78. The name Pat McAfee equals 331, which syncs up with December 9th, 331. 331 is a major number of revelation, which is where 666 is revealed as the number of the beast. And this announcement came 3 years, 3 months, and 10 days after McAfee left Barstool Sports. So look at this. This is so wild. Again, is this planned? Maybe. I guess it could be. So Pat left Barstool Sports on August 31st of 2018. And measuring to this announcement, you get the 331, just like his name. December 9th, 331. Now, if you convert this to just days, you get 1,197 days. 666 equals 1197. If you instead write out 666, it's 2,038. And look how many days it had been since WWE hired Pat McAfee as an announcer. A span of 238 days. That was on April 16th. Speaking of 666, I'm kind of tired of saying that number, to be honest. I almost feel like I decode it too much. However, people are looking for consistency in work like this, right? So I think by showing people how the same code permeates through similar news stories over and over again, I think it's the best way to drive the point home. Anyway, when you multiply 6 times 6 times 6, you get a product of 216. And the date that can be written, 21/6, June 21st, that's the birthday of Jussie Smollett. June 21st. And this is such a strange news story. I'm trying to figure out what's going on because, for so many years, I had claimed that, if it's in the media, it's controlled. Like, there's something behind it. But I don't know, guys. Something tells me things are falling apart for certain people. Like, this was supposed to be another standard fake news story, right? Like, I mean, this is the way I see it anyway. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like the occult really, really wanted racism in the news. So they used Jussie Smollett as a character in one of their fake news stories, but something didn't work. Maybe it didn't go to plan. Maybe there were too many good police officers involved. I don't know. But how does this help the mainstream narrative that racism is so bad? I mean, this guy just got found guilty of falsely reporting a hate crime. That's not good for the agenda. And I even heard a couple people this weekend who are strong left-leaning Democrats who buy into the news propaganda. They were even questioning what's going on with this whole story. And I had to tell them, hey, the agenda is division and hatred, and this story was going to do it. But now it's not. However, that being all said, even this trial was done by the numbers. Now, a trial being by the numbers doesn't necessarily mean it was... Let me collect my thoughts on this. A few weeks ago, I talked at length about the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. Now, I put my opinions out there that the events that led up to the Rittenhouse shooting were organic. I think that thing was real. Laugh at me all you want. The people who do laugh at me for that haven't watched all the videos from the court footage. So that court trial, though, was staged by the numbers. You know, they had an event. They waited a year. They waited till the right time to do all of it. Similar thing with the Jussie Smollett trial. I want to start with the word hoax. Summing to 48. The 48th prime number is 223. Now, the 223rd prime number is 1409. And Jussie Smollett equals 1409. So this is actually the type of thing that makes me believe that he was actually supposed to be caught in a hoax, right? Jussie Smollett's hoax fell 223 days after his birthday. And this past week's court trial was 2 years and 230 days after his last appearance on Empire. Now, the reason I think Empire is significant here is because it sums to 39, which is Jussie Smollett's age. It's also got that 33, hoax code 33, right? 39. Jussie Smollett reported a hate crime on the date 1/29/2019, and then he was found guilty on the date 12/9. So it had the same digits. The name Smollett equals 46, which is the same as hate crime and reduction. Chicago equals 46 in ordinal. And Jussie Smollett. If I can type this guy's name, it's so weird. 46. His name is also 199, which is the 46th prime number. Jussie Smollett was born 145 years after the city of Chicago was incorporated, and Chicago, Illinois equals 145. And then the verdict fell 1,045 days after the hoax. In Gematria, the word lie flipped upside down equals 317. And shout out to Zenith of the Alpha. I hope he's still in the chat. This is still like one of my favorite finds that he ever made. And if you literally flip these letters upside down, you get the word lie. So this is a big number of the code here. Jussie Smollett was born 3 months and 17 days after Chicago's anniversary, and look how old he was on the night of the hoax. So again, it almost looks like he was supposed to be caught, right? Who knows? The guilty verdict fell on December 9th. Guilty verdict in Chicago, Illinois, 67. The 67th prime, 331, like December 9th. The hoax was reported 331 days after Chicago's anniversary. So some loose connections here. But to me, it's really all about this 48, the 223. There's a lot of things I want to say about this story that I'd rather not. I mean, I can't imagine disliking someone more than Jussie Smollett. All right, so what else do we got, guys? Anything else here? Oh, that's right. Let's end the stream with this story. This is an excellent decode, and I hope you guys stick around for it. Back in 2017, there was I guess you could call it a mass shooting. It was 4 people killed, including the shooter. Now, this story really confuses me because I never heard of it, and I was following the news a lot back then. My channel was active. I was making a lot of videos. I was tracking the news. But I never heard about this shooting. Now, normally, in the event of hoaxes and false flags, you're going to hear about the shooting. Because that's the whole reason hoaxes and false flags occur, is for you to hear about it, for you to change your mind on something. But this one I never heard about, and a lot of people I talked to never heard about it either. It really didn't make the news very much. The story is that a man went into work on the night of June 7th, 2017, and shortly after midnight, he barricaded all the doors in the grocery store and proceeded to shoot and kill the other coworkers in the store. So he killed 3 others, but left 1 survivor, where he apparently, he saw her and just stood behind her and never actually shot her. Later, he would kill himself, which is why the death toll shows 4. And this is a very bizarre story because the perpetrator, Randy Stair, had a YouTube channel where he had this animated series, which was very bizarre, really out there. And he ran this channel for years and years. It was all documented. And it kind of documented his descent into madness, which led to him planning this shooting out and killing 3 of his coworkers. Now, what I found interesting when I was watching the news story about this is that Randy Stair originally planned to carry the shooting out on the date 5/7/19. And the reason he chose that date was because 5/7/19 were the numbers connected to the initials of his cartoon, which was called Ember's Ghost Squad. So EGS, right? 5/7/19. However, he realized he couldn't wait that long. Wow, EGS is 13 and 31. I didn't notice that, but that's interesting. He couldn't wait that long, and he ended up starting his attack on June 7th, which is, intriguingly, the reduction value of Ember's Ghost Squad, 67. So it's strange that he originally intended to use Gematria. However, he ended up using a different Gematria riddle. This all occurred in Eaton Township, Pennsylvania, and there's that 331 again. This number's come up several times during this stream. As we just mentioned, 331 is the 67th prime number. Randy Stair began this attack on the night of June 7th, right? 6/7. 6/7, like blood sacrifice. Human sacrifice is 67. And we're also going to talk about how this was connected to the total solar eclipse code, which is 67. The last name Stair, the shooter, equals 67. However, the shooting did not begin until after midnight, which was June 8th, or 6/8. And the name Stair also equals 68. That's when he began his murder-suicide, which equals 68. The names of the 4 other people in the store, Victoria Brong, Terry Sterling, Brian Hayes, and Kristen Newell, has ordinal gematria of 608. Strange, huh? But this is where it gets really strange. In the alphabetic order, the name Randy Stair sums to 129. Randy Stair was born on September 17th, 1992, meaning that on the date that he died, he was exactly 1,290 weeks old, just like his ordinal Gematria 129. The number 129 is special for another reason. It's the ordinal value of the number 99, 129. The date of the shooting, June 8th, 1918, fell exactly 99 years after the last total solar eclipse to go coast to coast in the United States. That occurred in 1918. The day before the shooting, when he started his attack, even had numerology of 50 and 23, and consider that 523 is the 99th prime number. I often talk about how in Greek isopsephy, the phrase for total eclipse equals 911. And when you write out 911, it sums to 99 in both reduction methods. And of course, 99 is 9 times 11. This occurred in Eaton Township, Pennsylvania, which has an abbreviated Gematria value of 74. Now, 74 is the big total solar eclipse number in Hebrew, 704. The word killing equals 74. And this killing was 74 days before the first Great American coast-to-coast total eclipse in 99 years, which happened on August 21st later that year. The last name Stair sums to 22, 67, and 280. And notice how total solar eclipse equals 202, 67, and in Hebrew it's 280. I pointed out how total eclipse equals 911 in Greek. When you write out 911 without the and, you get 179. And you can take one date from this, the 17th of September. Remember, that was Randy Stair's birthday, September 17th. In the alphabetic order, Eaton Township equals 179. It also has matching gematria with solar eclipse. So, Eaton Township, Pennsylvania, has gematria of both 133 and 331. Remember, these are two of the three numbers in Latin to have gematria of 1331, which is, again, our major eclipse number, 1331. The 1331 eclipse occurred on November 30th. Both of those phrases also 1331. Now, this shooting fell right before the two twin eclipses over the United States. Twin eclipses equals 1331. Now, the number 1332 is the first multiple of 666. And, of course, 666, once again, connected to the eclipse code as well. How interesting is it that Randy Stair went by the pseudonym Andrew Blaze, which equals 666. Now, the sun, which blazes upon the earth, is an average of 93 million miles from Earth. And on the date that Randy Stair died, he was exactly 9,030 days old. In the tapes that Randy recorded leading up to the shooting, he said that maybe the supermarket will be closed for a month. And that's actually pretty much exactly what happened. So notice how in English gematria, Weiss equals 614. And this is where the shooting was. It was a Weiss supermarket. So on the date 6/14, or June 14th, Weiss Markets announced that the store would be reopened, and it would open exactly a month later, July 13th, with the end date. So Weiss equals 6/14, and then they chose July 13th as the reopening date, Well, July 13th is 713, which is the Gematria of total eclipse. That date can also be written 13/7 like total eclipse. Notice how total eclipse also equals 47. Randy Stair had birth numerology of 137 and 47. Weiss Markets was even founded in the town of Sunbury. Sunbury? Like eclipses, the sun. And Sunbury, PA even equals 137. Weiss supermarkets were opened in 1912. And check this out. Right before the shooting, Randy uploaded some files, right, which explained his motivation and why he was carrying this out. And I noticed they put quotes over the names of these files: journal, suicide tapes, and digital set. So if you take only the quoted phrases, look at this. You get double gematria of 1912 in both large number ciphers. And this is really, really rare. Very rare. In fact, you may recall that last month I made a video on the Astroworld tragedy. And notice how Houston Astroworld equals 1913 in both of these methods. This is super rare for these two ciphers to have the same values. And that Astroworld tragedy, which was a crowd crush, was connected to the 1913 massacre, where there was a crowd crush at the Italian Hall in Michigan. So for those of you who saw that decode, you'll know that this is a consistent way of decoding things. It's just not that common for things to sum to the same number. But there you have the 1912 and Weiss supermarkets summing to opening in 1912. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to urge anyone to necessarily watch the little video on YouTube that was out, that was put out about this whole story, but, you know, it's just strange to me that they would go to these lengths to do some kind of hoax or ritual or whatever, and then not even tell the whole country about it. So is there a chance this was organic? I don't know, guys. Again, I'm just sharing the numbers with you. Something beyond fascinating is happening in this world, and I'm not the only one who sees it, so yeah. Yeah, sorry about the chat. I mean, I do have a few mods. Maybe I should have more mods. Sometimes I'll go in early in a super stream and add a new moderator if nobody's in, but I saw a few of them, so thanks to the mods for cleaning up the trash in there. But yeah, I'm looking to wrap this stream up. I've been going a little over an hour here. Unless anybody's got some questions they can quickly think of. But I do feel like it's like clockwork where pretty much every stream we get at least one or two trolls who jump in and really try to derail everything. Right, so someone commented like, okay. He says, holy S, you think Rittenhouse footage of killings is real? Well, yeah, I do. And I urge anybody to look at it. Now, maybe I'm wrong. So I'm not preaching that it happened for sure. But using my judgment, reviewing the footage, looking at the details, I do. Because, you know, there's so many people in this truth community who just say stuff because they heard it. And I entered the truth community as a skeptic. I'm teaching Gematria because I doubted Gematria until I started running the numbers myself and saying, oh, wow, this is real. So, yeah, there's hoaxes all the time, but just because something happens and is on TV doesn't mean it's a hoax. As far as, the Rittenhouse thing goes, again, look at this argument in the chat. Someone says Ashkenazi crisis actors, victims. Why does everyone keep saying that all the victims were Jewish in the Rittenhouse story? Well, we did have the death of one guy named Rosenbaum, right? So Rosenbaum is a common name among Ashkenazi Jews. Absolutely, that's true. But technically, it's of German origin. So here's the thing that people don't understand is that in Milwaukee and southeastern Wisconsin in particular, we're at the tip of what's called the German Triangle. So the cities of St. Louis, Cincinnati, and Milwaukee are like the three heaviest German populations in the United States by percentage. So almost everybody here has German heritage. Like my mom's maiden name was Bear, for instance, right? Which is a very German name. Now, I mean, Rosenbaum, you can say maybe he was Jewish. Sure, fine, right? He's got the name. The guy was a convicted pedophile. So I don't know what that has to do with anything, but look at the other victims, right? Huber etymology. Huber is a German surname derived from the German Hube, hide. So there's nothing regarding Jews there. There are some Jews named Huber, I suppose, but it's a German name. And then what about the other victim, Grosskreutz? Kind of sounds like a Jewish name, right? But again, this is a German name from a place called Grosskreutz in Brandenburg. So if you take three random white guys in southeastern Wisconsin, they're probably going to have German Jewish-sounding names. So that's a shit argument. But I'm kind of curious as to why people really feel so strongly about this. I don't know. So people who say it's a hoax, and I just want to have this conversation because I find this fascinating, right? I've gone to a lot of channels, a lot of videos, and you look at the comments, and there is a split among people. There's a whole lot of people in the truther community who say it's real, and then there's also people who comment and say it's fake, but there's never any discussion about why, right? And in reviewing the footage and seeing how everything comes together with multiple angles, I can't figure out how they inserted a prop arm for Gage Grosskreutz. There's no time for that to happen. So, I mean, maybe someone can break it down a little more for me because the arguments I keep hearing, I don't know, like there were a lot of cameras there. Well, yeah, because that was like the center of the news universe. So, okay, Svendabs, what's up, man? You said you watched the footage hundreds of times, all angles, right? So, I don't want to put I have all the footage from the courts on my computer. I'm not going to play it here because, I don't know, I feel like that might be taken down. I might do that on BitChute. But, yeah, there's patched together videos, right? I mean, you see Gage Grosskreutz, he's just fine. He's pulling his gun out. There's some gunfire, and then the next, like right away, you see his arm pretty much gone. So unless you're saying that there were multiple takes, like I just can't buy it. The name Rittenhouse also. So this was a big part of contention. The name Rittenhouse is Austrian, right? And the Rittenhouse trial was just wrapping up when Austria was announcing mandatory vaccinations. So I can totally see why people would think that's a hint that it's a hoax. Infinite Loop says, I found nothing to see it was fake. That's how I feel. I mean, if you watch all 5 hours of the night, because there were live streamers streaming everything all night. Watch from the first minute of the night all the way through, and you will see how tensions are escalating. Now, here's what I will say. There were provocateurs in the crowd. I definitely believe that. If you look at the guy, I think his name was Zeminski. He fired a bullet into the air before Rittenhouse turned around and shot Rosenbaum. Something's up with that Zeminski guy. I think he was going around trying to start shit, trying to get other people started in shit. I definitely believe that. I don't think everyone at the Kenosha rally was like a staged protester. Because, you know, a lot of the arguments I've heard calling it a hoax, one of them is that, hey, you know, they hoaxed Sandy Hook, right? That was a hoax. Well, Sandy Hook was a school at the end of a road with one entrance next to a firehouse. So that's easy to rope off. This was all happening in the middle of the city of Kenosha. Anybody could have been there. Nothing was roped off. So it was being inhabited by a lot of people who were just trying to start trouble. Right, like it might have been contrived. I think there were provocateurs who were trying to start violence. They were walking around, they were looking for hot-headed personalities like Rosenbaum. Rosenbaum was nuts, dude. That guy raped children, okay? He was mentally unstable. And judging by his behavior in those videos, he very much was unstable. And I don't think he was acting. I've seen people like that. So I think Rosenbaum was targeted by other provocateurs in the crowd to try to start shit. I don't think Rosenbaum goes after a guy with an AR-15 on his own. I think someone put him up to it because he thought he was being a tough guy and he ended up dead. And then after the shooting, you know, there's some moments where everyone's trying to figure out what happened. And when you look at how the whole thing played out with Grosskreutz and Huber attacking Rittenhouse, it just makes sense, right? Grosskreutz didn't know what he was... he didn't know the situation. So there was hesitation. He's like, am I just going to try and kill this guy or am I going to try to stop him? Hence the hesitation with the gun. So, well, and that could be right. His criminal record, all part of the psyop. I don't know, guys. I mean, there are a lot of rapists out there. Like, that's a real thing. And those people look to start shit. So when they see big protests and fires, they come out of the woodwork. I don't think that's too crazy. Yeah, hoax isn't the right word. I think that's a good way of looking at it. More of an operation, right? You send guys with criminal records in there, guys who are up to no good, starting all sorts of stuff. Now, I don't know enough to say for sure that there would have been a muzzle flash. I've seen some firearms experts say that that's not necessarily the case. I'm not sure. What are we doing right now? Look at this. This guy's commenting, you don't have a truth community. You have a control opposition psyop. Really? What am I doing right now? I'm having a discussion. Okay? And this is what we should be doing. We're having a discussion. I want to know why people think it's a hoax. You telling me I'm a shill because I don't believe it's a hoax isn't going to get you anywhere. It's not going to get anybody anywhere. Was the Jacob Blake shooting a hoax? Maybe. That I actually haven't looked into as much. But the idea that they would run a hoax in front of dozens and dozens of people who have cameras on them, that doesn't make sense to me. Oh, the Buddy Dwyer, I remember that. Well, wasn't that in the head? Didn't he shoot himself in the head, though? And there was a lot of blood. Like, when Grosskreutz runs away after he gets shot and kneels down, there's blood pouring out underneath him. You can see it. It's there. Sorry I don't have any graphics to go along with this discussion, but again, I'm really cautious about what I want to share in terms of like gory images and things like that. So maybe I'll do something on BitChute. Because again, guys, don't believe everything you're told. There's a lot of people out there who are being paid to tell you everything is fake. I assure you of that. And the only way to get to the truth is to use your own discernment. Don't repeat what other people are telling you. So, okay, I just wanted to have that discussion. I'm glad to see that some of you guys are kind of on my wavelength where you're like, hey, yeah, maybe something was up there, but to go around calling everything a hoax, I don't think that's getting anyone anywhere anymore. And remember, for years, I was also saying that the main reason they're doing these hoaxes, like Handy Crook, for instance, is because they're preparing for real events, right? They're training their forces for response to real events, and it's only a matter of time till that shit really happens. And I can't say I've ever seen anyone get shot in real life, but judging by the reactions in the video, I mean, it passed the smell test. I'll say that much. So, a BitChute link. Okay, there might be a BitChute link actually in the description already. Let me see. No, there's not. I'll throw a link in the chat here. How about that? And all I want to do, I just want to do a little BitChute video where I just show the footage and why I don't think it's fake. And if you want to call me crazy or a shill because of that, then fine, do it. People have been calling me a shill since day one. I don't care. I mean, so many people out there are lost. It doesn't bother me. All right, but anyway, my BitChute channel here. I don't really have anything on there but a few edited videos. But it does serve as a little bit of a backup, I suppose. Yeah, the arm injury looks real. I don't know how much else looks fake, man. I mean, yeah, there's questions, right? So there's my BitChute link. I just dropped it in the chat if you want to check that out. All right, apologies. Maybe you didn't call me a shill, but a lot of people do. Well, I can't mod all my mods. All right, well, I'm going to cap the discussion there. I don't really have much more to add to it. Again, now I'm inspired to make that video, so if you guys want to look at it with me, that would be fun. Yeah, when I do that, I'll put a link on my blog so people can pop in. Hey, real quick, before I end this stream, can anyone in the chat let me know if they're getting kicked out of the chat? And the reason I ask this is because I'm looking at my concurrent viewers, and I notice it gets up to like 80, and then it drops down to like 50 or 55. Dude, I'm not hiding anything on this channel. There are mods who don't appreciate how you are behaving in the chat. I'm sorry. These are reasonable people that I put in charge of moderating, too. You've got proof of it? Oh, okay. See, now I'm just... Yeah, and this... Look, guys, all I want is for everyone to get closer to the truth, and that determines doing your own research, using your own brain, your own discernment. And that's all I want you to use, so... Okay, I came from ZKH. No, I didn't. I was making videos, and he found my videos and put me around. See, this is what you guys don't get. Like, so many of you are so overboard into conspiracies, you don't even know help. You can't recognize help when you see it. It's ridiculous. So, yeah, I've been guilty in the past of giving too much attention to trolls, but to me, this is, again, one of the more fascinating things about this quote-unquote truth community is that there's so many people out there who, so many people out there who just call things a hoax, and then when you start to ask them, I don't know, things break down a little bit. All right, well, I'm done addressing you guys. All the doubters, all the haters, that's fine. Yeah, it's nuts out here, man. And it's a minefield, too. There's a lot of vipers in this community. There's paid shills out there. If they're promoting division, if they're trying to keep you from thinking, they're part of the problem. All right, guys. Well, this was fun, hey? Thanks to everybody for jumping in. Again, likes, shares, subscribes are the best way to help this channel. In a short amount of time, we'll be revamping the website, allowing people to subscribe there instead of something like Patreon or another platform that could be taken under my feet. So that announcement will be coming in the next few weeks. Keep your eyes peeled for more. It's going to be a much better world out there with all the knowledge we're getting to. So, all right, guys. In the spirit of the Beatles, peace, love, God bless, and we'll talk to you all next time. See ya.